All right, good evening. Welcome to the meeting. Please join for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join for a moment of silence for our fallen servicemen and women. Thank you. All right, so we begin this evening's meeting with some great, exciting news from the fire department. I'll turn it over to Chief Taunton.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. I'm happy to announce that we have 2 new members joining the volunteer fire department. First, I would like to introduce Lucas Argiziano. Lucas decided to join the Garden City Fire Department after his time as a Boy Scout and later as an Eagle Scout. He dedicated much of his time to serving and assisting his community through various projects. He's eager to continue his path of service by protecting and supporting his community as a firefighter. Thank you, Lucas, for joining. And the second member, unfortunately, could not be here due to school commitments, but William Mondaro, just to give you a short background, William is a sophomore at the College of Holy Cross. He's lived in Garden City his whole life. He's always respected the fire department and the sacrifices that we make to keep the town safe. And Will decided to join the department to help protect others and give back to his community. So thank you, Will.
And I'll just say thank you, Lucas, for stepping up for this important role. And as I've said before, the village is full of volunteers who work in all different capacities, but there's no volunteer position that's more impactful than the one that you've stepped up for. So thank you for doing that, and we appreciate it. Okay. Okay, so apologies for anyone on Zoom. My microphone was not on before, and we did welcome a wonderful volunteer firefighter and another who was present, another not present, and thank them for volunteering. We're doing the quick resident comments now, and there are none in the room. So we'll move on to comments from department heads, beginning with Mr. Baroni.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. DPW will be covering 9 items on the agenda this evening. I'd like to direct your attention on the Public Works. Item number 21 is a request to have 3 Water Department employees attend the American Water Works Association spring meeting in Saratoga for an estimated cost of $2,800. Attendance is necessary in order to obtain the required continuing education units to maintain their water plant operator licenses. Additionally, new vendors are introduced to our employees for competitive bidding purposes. Item number 22 is a request to transfer $229,472 from the Business District Paving Capital Fund to DPW equipment. These were funds that were utilized to purchase a new sewer main cleaning truck. The truck was charged to the Water Department when it should have been purchased through DPW since it is a sewer truck. This transfer rectifies that error, and I'd just like to point out that there is a correction. We are changing from the Marijuana Avenue improvements to take the funding from the Business District Paving Capital. Item number 23 is a request to approve the updated proposal submitted by H2M for additional work that was identified and needed to be included in the contract for repairs of our ground storage tanks. The additional work includes requirements mandated by the Health Department. The total of the additional work was $9,200. Item number 24 is a request to approve 4 change orders totaling $92,573.83 for the AOP treatment at well 9. Item A1 is for a leak that needed to be repaired that connects piping to the new AOP treatment system. The main was extremely deep and specialized shoring was required. Item A2 is a request made by village staff to modify the proposed drainage system to prevent flooding as noticed during operation of the other well sites. Item A3 is to repair a leak that was discovered on the water main entering the booster station building while working on the AOP project. This required moving and reinstalling concrete sidewalks and support posts for the roof canopy. Item B is to replace gutters on an existing building that was identified as needing replacement during the construction. Excuse me. Item 25 is a request to approve a proposal submitted by D&B in the amount of $15,700 to continue assisting the village with maintaining our MS4 permit. This permit is essential for the village to discharge rainwater into regulated bodies of water. With the revised New York State DEC general permit for MS4 operators becoming effective in January of 2024, the requirements for maintaining the permit and the associated annual reporting has significantly increased. Item 26 is a request to accept the maintenance bond in the amount of $751,193.18 for the Cedar Valley and Meadow Street Sewer Pumps Replacement Project. Acceptance of this bond guarantees work for 18 months from the date of acceptance. Village Council has reviewed and approved the maintenance bond as to form. Item 26 is a request to accept the maintenance bond in the amount of $152,275 for the Garden City Toll Lodge Rehabilitation Project. Accepting this bond guarantees the work for 18 months from the date of acceptance. Village Council has reviewed and approved the maintenance bond as to form. Item 28 is a request to accept the maintenance bond in the amount of $3,152,520.47 for the permanent building construction project at wells 7 and 12. Acceptance of this bond guarantees the work for 18 months from the date of acceptance. Village Council has reviewed and approved the maintenance bond as to form. And finally, item 29 is a request to transfer $42,967.03 to the DPW equipment from the DPW yard sprinkler system and to approve the purchase of a new ditch witch trencher. Our current ditch witch trencher has passed its useful life and is in need of replacement. The ditch witch trencher is used primarily for digging trenches. It is mainly utilized by our street lighting division to dig narrow, deep trenches to install conduit for new wiring. That's all the items I'll be covering on the agenda this evening. Happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Any
Two
trustees have
questions.
questions? Yep.
2 questions. On number 22, that truck has not been purchased yet, correct?
No, that is a truck that has been purchased.
It has been purchased.
Correct. It was purchased through the Water Department Enterprise Fund. However, the sewer truck is a sewer truck and sewer funds should be under DPW.
Understood. And we approved that purchase?
All purchases are approved by
That's
the
right.
BOT
I was trying to
and
get
included in the budget.
Okay. In this year's capital budget?
I would have to check that out and get back to you.
Okay. So we're moving the capital budget money for that. That's all that is.
Correct.
Okay.
Isn't that because you can't have a certain type of truck paid for out of another fund, or is that?
Correct.
Why
So
is
it
that
it is
happening?
it's a truck used for sewer maintenance and sewer maintenance falls under DPW. Water Enterprise is strictly for water mains, hydrants, that type of stuff.
Okay. And my second, I think it's probably the same answer, but my second question is on 29, for the ditch witch trencher. Approve those funds. Is there an inventory of all the equipment and life cycle, et cetera?
Yes,
So could we get a copy? It would be interesting. I would like to see a copy of that one.
sure. I can send you the inventory.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Barone. Ms.
You're
Wu?
Good evening. Item number 1 under finance is a request to transfer $4,490.50 to materials and supplies in the central garage department. The funds are needed to purchase a tool, a Snap-on tool. The second item is a transfer of $9,978.39 to the Administration Digital Scanning Project. This funding is coming from the Safety Inspection or Building Department Digital Scanning Project. It was decided to consolidate all the digital scanning of the records for the village under the administration project, so we're closing out the Safety Inspection Project. Item number 2 is a notice that the 2025 tentative assessment roll has been provided by the assessor and is now available on the village website and has been filed with the village clerk. It can be accessed on the village website under the finance department. Item number 3 is a request to transfer $4,676.41 from the reserve for termination payouts for 2 employees who have left village service. Item number 4 is a request to appropriate some revenue. The village received $25,000 from the owners of 555 Stewart Avenue, resulting from some damage they made to village property. Mr. Giovanello reviewed the damages and in conjunction with the Recreation Department determined that the work can be done in-house, so the owners provided the $25,000. We are requesting to appropriate that now to the Parks Materials and Supplies and the Parks Overtime account to work on this, the damages, to correct the damages now. And then those are the items on the agenda under finance. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Ms. Wu. Mr.
welcome.
Giovanelli?
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. The Building Department doesn't have anything on the formal agenda this evening, but I just want to give the board an update on the work performance for the month of January. We've collected, we've issued 111 construction permits. We inspected, performed 205 building inspections. We've addressed 13 complaints. We've issued 124 certificates, and we've collected $110,000 in revenue for the month of January. That's all I have on the agenda this evening, Mayor. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have. This thing is very
Just-
loud.
Update on the, let us know the update on the patching of the hole in the St. Paul's roof.
Yes, the patch was performed on Wednesday. Was successfully performed. It took about 5 hours to complete the whole thing. 2 roofers were on the roof there, patching the actual hole, which is probably about 4 foot by 8 foot wide. They secured an EPDM rubber roofing membrane to the side of the west side of the roof. And right now the roof is secure and weathertight. I did follow up with an email to the board, and hopefully that lasts for a while until we figure out what to do.
Any other questions for Mr. Giovanelli? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hill.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Board of Trustees. Recreation and Parks has 3 items on the agenda this evening. Item number 18 is board authorization is requested to purchase a 2025 State Body Crew Cab truck from Van Bortel Ford for the amount of $74,295.69. This amount exceeds the budget of $48,000. However, funds are available due to savings we've made from the cancelled 15-passenger van. This is to replace the truck that is currently used by our planting crew, which has served its time and is now in need of replacement. Item number 19 is senior center exercise equipment. Authorization is requested to transfer $37,666.21 to the senior center exercise equipment from athletic court renovations, and also to authorize the request to approve change order number 1 submitted by Compan for the purchase and installation of a safety surface around the senior center exercise equipment at a cost of $44,209.39. The original plan with this was once the exercise equipment was installed, we were then going to fill the area with topsoil and grade it and reseed and have it back to natural grass. But after further consultation, we decided it was better to put in a safety surface. It would be better use for our seniors and make the whole area a little bit more safe for them. Item 20, the purchase of equipment. Board authorization is requested to make the following changes to the 2024-25 capital equipment budget. We'd like to remove the R75 leaf vacuum at a cost of $70,000 and instead purchase 2 Greenworks sit-down mowers at a cost of $48,596. Purchase a new Hustler Super 104 mower at a cost of $27,768.78, and purchase a Tennant T391 mid-size walk-behind scrubber at a cost of $7,931.93. We were able to get through leaf season without the need for a new leaf truck. So instead, we'd like to use these funds to buy equipment that are going to help us in our efforts once the spring comes around. The 2 electric mowers will be assigned to our community playgrounds, and the gas-powered mower will be assigned to community park, where the terrain calls for something with a little bit more power than the electric ones can give us. And the walk-behind scrubber will be assigned to the senior center to help us maintain the floor that was recently refurbished over there. Quick department update. We've just concluded our inventory of the neighborhood bathrooms. So we've been working close with DPW, and the next steps will be to replace any of the worn or stained fixtures that didn't come out how we would expect in the deep clean. Unfortunately, the pool slide project will be pushed back to next year after this pool season. I was hopeful that we would get it in, but the dates were too close, and I think a few months ago I promised we would have a slide, and I didn't want to risk not having one, so we decided that it was in our best interest to wait until Labor Day and then replace the slide then. The pool playground equipment, however, has been installed. We expect that project to be completed sometime next week, weather permitting. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. One question that comes to mind, the 15-passenger van, why was that taken out?
Because we received a grant which allowed us to buy a new bus. So once we bought our new bus, we had no need for the 15-passenger van anymore.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Related actually to that same topic, excuse me. So the original budgeted amount was 48,000 and it cost us 75,000 for all intents and purposes, right?
Correct.
So why the big difference in price? What's different about the equipment?
That's just the going market rate. Unfortunately, I wasn't involved in the budget and the numbers that were put in, but I believe that my predecessor may have just misbudgeted that vehicle at that price.
And my it's not really a you question, I'll say, but I'm going to ask you. On 20, where you're removing the leaf vacuum for 70,000, when was that put into the capital budget?
I
Like,
believe
Irene, I don't know if you know her.
I believe that was this year's budget, but we never got around to ordering it, and our current leaf vacuums sufficed. We have deferred that to next year's budget because we will need to replace the leaf vacuum, but right now we have more pressing needs in our mowers are on their way out, and obviously once the spring comes around, we don't have the leaf problem, but we do have substantial amount of grass to cut. So
And those 2 mowers were not included in the capital budget request?
no, they weren't.
So, and this is not directed at you, but I know we're coming on budget season. I'm starting to get a little anxiety about the degree to which we have items in the capital budget which then are not needed and the money is used elsewhere. So if we put something, and I know the capital budget is a request for funding, right? It's not the actual funding, yet I do think there should be some fairly concrete need for what is in there. And so if we asked for something to be put in a capital budget only 6 or 8 months ago, but now we're going to use the money for something else, it doesn't sit well with me. And as I said, this is not directed at you at all. This seems to be a practice. And so once we get to capital budget season, I would like us to be a lot more disciplined about why it's in the capital budget is it a request that we are going to follow through on? Or is it a placeholder for money that we're going to use for something else going forward? Because that doesn't sit well with me.
I can clarify that actually the mowers were not in this year's budget, but they were identified as things that would need to be bought in the 5-year capital plan. So once we got through leaf season, that's why they were moved up and the leaf truck was moved.
Yeah, I'm not saying the request is not valid, but you hear my point. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think what gets upsetting or just concerning is as we see things transferred from one account to another, and there's so much of that that's been going on, that we kind of sit here and when we're going through the notes, we're like, what's going on?
Where did it come from?
Why, where'd it come from and why?
But I also, excuse me, I'll just jump in here a second. I think that budgeting is probably an inexact science. And that's just what it is. It is a budget. So I think the points raised by Ms. Courtney and Ms. Harrington are valid, but I think that it is not, it would not be unusual that monies are moved, but keeping a closer eye on how and when is valid.
So Ed, I'll jump in on that one with you there. And again, I agree with everybody on this particular topic. But knowing what I know from my own organization, we have plans all year to do X, Y, and Z and allocate funds for that, and we do exactly the same thing. We want to change out this truck, but guess what? This truck breaks down before this truck, and this truck is still running. So what do? You buy the new truck and you defer that truck to the following year. A lot of this stuff, then in all fairness, that they're doing on here is just saying, oh, wow, we have a different priority now, 4 months in, 6 months into the year than we had projecting before the year started. And it happens all the time in all fairness. But yeah, it would be lovely if we could just stick to our plan. But in all fairness, in reality, that's very, very difficult to do. My thing is just to stay in budget as much as we possibly can and move around the funds and prioritize the funds, obviously, and allocate them properly. That would be my big thing. So Andy, I got a couple of things for you on a different note. So bathrooms, we're in good shape. Going to change some urinals, some sinks, and clean up those park bathrooms.
Yep, we're going to meet and figure out what we're going to do first with the floor in the bathroom.
Yeah.
We don't want to paint or anything if we're going to make substantial changes to the flooring, but once we make that decision, then we'll go and we have ideas on replacing urinals and making them more user friendly.
Yeah, well, just like I said, I was in a bunch of them there lately. The same thing. Yeah, there's a bunch of them that just definitely need to be redone and before the new spring and summer with the kids and everything else like that. So anyway, good news there. So the slide, I think that's a good decision. If we're not ready, we can't chance it, obviously. So but my thing would be now, let's not waste time. Lock these guys down, get whatever we need to get signed. So we're not, so we're not waiting come, the beginning of September and all of a sudden the summer's gone by. So just lock those guys down because it seems like those guys were tough to lock down, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll stay on top of it.
Okay, so we'll just stay on that. Grove Park, can you give us an idea of what's going on with Grove Park with the tennis courts and all that stuff we had planned to do over there?
I would defer that to Mr. Baroni.
All right, John, off you go.
The tennis courts at Grove Park are everything's set up, ready to go. We're just waiting for some nice weather.
So the plan is to start in the spring?
As soon as the weather permits.
Great, okay. And how long is that project going to take, John? Do you know, have you any idea? Is it 3 months? Is it more? Is it less?
Probably about a month and a half or so.
Okay. All right, just curious, that's all. Andy, give us a quick fill in there on that meeting we had and walkthrough we had both in the field house and Clewett Hall in regards to some of the stuff that was budgeted and projected to be spent on those two buildings that's badly needed in my view. Can you just give us a quick broad overview on that walkthrough we did?
Yeah, we had a meeting with the Rec Commission where we had a walkthrough of Clewett Hall and St. Paul's Fieldhouse and discussed our plans to renovate the stage and the floor in Clewett Hall, looking to introduce some much needed air conditioning so that we can then use those buildings through the summer. At the moment, they pretty much sit empty, and there's definitely, we could run programming in there, and there's definitely a desire for people to get into those buildings. They're just not very comfortable in the summer when the heat reaches what it does in there. But we've already started conversations with Energy Mechanical to get numbers for next year to put in some AC, and then moving into the winter some additional heating. We've spoke to Musco Lighting about replacing the lighting in the field house because it's really substantial there. And like I said, we've already started getting quotes for replacing the floor and renovating the stage in Glue Hall.
Great. Yeah, I was in there with you with the commission, and again, I hadn't been in there in a few years because my kids are getting a little bit older. They are two fantastic facilities. I kind of forgot how good they were, in all fairness. And the field house is in fantastic shape. Definitely needs new windows. Definitely needs air conditioning, heat, and it definitely needs new lighting. Clwyd floor for sure, stage for sure, and air conditioning, lighting. The same. They both kind of need the same thing structurally and everything else wise. They're good. But they certainly, and again, it'll boil down to budget, but they certainly, we talked in the commission that those two buildings certainly need to become a priority. Because again, we can get so much more use out of it if they're conditioned with air conditioning and heat. And also the floors just definitely, especially in Clwyd, badly need to be done, and the lighting. So I think those are two great facilities for our village, and we can make a lot more use out of them if we do those things, and away we go from there. Okay. And then quick one on the on St. Paul's, the grass fields, and then the looking at the options of a turf field. Can you give us a quick update on that?
Yeah, we've started conversations with, first and foremost, how we can improve the grass fields at St. Paul's. That again comes down to a budget question of whether we can make fixes now that we can then build on in years to come, or ultimately cost will dictate what we can do there. But there are things that we can do to improve the playing surface there. And we've also started or revisited conversations that Paul Blake started to have to try and get some pricing on introducing a turf field in the village. Right now, we're just looking at numbers that we could then present to you guys.
Okay, great. Yeah, when it comes to the grass fields, we've talked about this over the winter. Again, we have to change some things, and we have to make every possible effort we can to improve these grass fields at St. Paul's. They're not acceptable. They're not up to Garden City standards. And also there's too much hard dirt, especially in the summertime, that our kids are falling on. And you know what? It's just, we have to make that a priority, because those fields are our pride and joy. And right now they are certainly not up to par for Garden City standards, for sure. So
Trustee Muldoon, we just had a conversation before this meeting for about 45 minutes with Andy, and we are going through like a whole analysis of like the organic programs versus the inorganic programs.
Yeah.
We were going through, Celia Peterson was at the meeting with us because she knows turf really well. And we went through all the different types of, what is it called? Infill that is around. So we're actively engaged in trying to figure out what is the most economical and what makes the most sense on all levels.
yeah, and I deal with turf myself all the time, grass and turf, with people's properties. And yeah, there is definitely differences on the infill and the material that's used on turf fields.
He's going to put together a whole sheet for us of like.
Yeah, I'll do a side-by-side comparison of benefits and the
Yeah.
pros and cons of artificial turf and natural grass fields. So I can put that together.
It would be great to have a presentation to the whole board as a work session at some point before the spring, so we can all get an idea of the conditions and then the path forward
Absolutely.
on the field treatment and possible turf fields.
Andy, that's great. Thanks so much for all your help. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one item, number 16. The police department is requesting approval to apply for the New York State Local Government Efficiency Grant to complete a mutual technology purchase with the City of Long Beach to upgrade each jurisdiction's virtual host environments. Eligible projects require 2 or more local governments to apply for funding assistance to plan for and implement shared services. The scope of work includes purchasing and transitioning to a stronger network infrastructure that will increase network speed and reliability, that will also increase the efficiency of each department's management systems, as well as accommodate the increase in data demands, efficient data transfer rates, and maintain a modern, up-to-date security infrastructure for the entire IT system. The Village of Garden City and the City of Long Beach have both determined the need to replace our current systems in the near future with modern systems equipped to improve functionality while providing optimum services to combat cybersecurity threats and attacks. This grant prioritizes safety, fosters intermunicipal collaboration, and modernizes critical infrastructures. The grant requires cost matching funds equal to at least 10% of the project cost, and the maximum funding for each local government is $250,000. I really want to thank Village Administrator Ralph Swazi and Ryan Sheehan, our IT specialist, because I'm not an IT specialist, and I try my best, but these two gentlemen really were very good in helping me formulate this with Long Beach. And the reason why we formulated with Long Beach, I'm the executive director of the National Chiefs, and I have a close relationship with all village police departments and the two cities. And the IT person in Long Beach is a former police officer here, and we were just discussing our ITs and our needs, and he said there might be a grant for us, so to work together. So this is how this came about. This is what's good, what collaboration is all about, and working with other departments. And I think it's something that really helped us. When I brought this up to Ryan, Ryan said, we need to upgrade the system in the next couple of years. So this would be a great opportunity to make our system optimum and security safe. And Ryan, did I say anything wrong?
No, that was excellent.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner. That sounds like an excellent plan, and thank you to the work with from Mr. Swazi, Mr. Sheehan. Do you want to fill us in? I know you had that piece on the car thefts in the village. I don't know if you wanted to share that with the audience tonight as well, the warning you put in the.
Sure, I didn't bring it up with me, but we put something in the paper recently, not just us, the county also, because I get all the intel reports of all 8 precincts. There's been a rise in larceny from vehicles. Subjects, we have a few reports in the last month of 2 subjects going up and down streets, checking car doors. When they find a car door open, they go inside and they take what they can find. And in a couple of cases, they found a key fob and started the car and took off with the car. So we are giving out some tips for people, maintain lighting, make sure if you have security cameras, make sure they include the area where the car is parked. If you bring your fob in the house, bring your keys in the house, make sure your valet key's not in the car, because a lot of people hide in their car. Everything in the car, if you have something in the car of value, should be in the trunk, should not be seen, because it's like shopping. There's a lot of, this article has a lot of things in it that you can do to prepare yourself to make your car safe. And there's been a couple of days where people were in town checking doors and they found nothing. So actually, there's a lot of residents have now been accustomed to locking their vehicle. And in most cases, when we had something recently lost, it's someone that says, I lock it all the time, last night I forgot. So it's like something we do with our kids every day. You just got to foster that every day, lock your car, remove all your valuables. Also, your garage door opener, stuff like that. On the North Shore, what they're doing is they're going into cars. They're actually going into cars and trying to get into the garage to get into the house. So it's important to keep your car locked and keep valuables, and anything that could get a key or anything else, make sure it's not in the car.
Right. Thank you for always sharing those tips and for all the work the department's doing. And there's more in the mayor's column for anyone who wants additional detail from the commissioner. Thank you.
Mayor, if you would permit me, as the commissioner said, there's a lot of collaboration that occurs with the police department and their efforts. Some of the complaints that we hear all the time is the U-turns that are being made on 7th Street. And as the liaison to the police commissioner, we were debating what to do. And one of the things that came to mind, and I have to compliment Mr. Baroni on the quickness of his department, and that is to make a sign in which when it goes onto 7th Street, where the no U-turn signs are, underneath it, we alert whoever is there that it's 2 points on your license plus a substantial fine. So while we in the village and the police department can't have everybody read the signs, but those that want to know about it will in fact have it right in front of them. So thank you very much for that. And on a different note, my grandfather told me that the mark of a professional is what they do when nobody's looking. That applies to the police department in spades. We are fortunate to live under the blue umbrella and the blue blanket that the police department provides to us. I have the privilege of getting communications from the Commissioner's office of those people who write and advise of the good works that were done by the police department. And I'd like to share one, and that is that one of the police aides was detailed to go to a house because there was snow on the sidewalk. And it is in fact a violation of village law if the snow was not taken out. So the police aide, Mr. Michael, went there, saw the condition, and then took it upon himself when he went in to advise the homeowner what was the problem, saw that it was an elderly homeowner who had limited ability. He asked for a shovel and he cleaned the sidewalk himself. That's what we got. And I'm very proud of the officer who did that on his own because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
You're here.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. I'll advise the police aide.
Commissioner, I got one thing for you, just a follow-up note to Bruce, and maybe it's just a pure coincidence. In the last 2 weeks, several people, when I say several, probably 3 or 4, you know what I mean? Just out of the blue, hey, Vinny, can you do me a favor? I'm like, what? Can you talk to the police department? It seems like there's a lot of this stuff going on again on 7th Street with people U-turning, people parking in the handicap spots and double parking. I said, I absolutely will relay it to them, but overall, they're absolutely out there and doing their thing. So if you can just double down one more time, it definitely seems like people are noticing. Maybe it's just because it's winter time or whatever else like that, but it seems like for some reason it's just coming back a little bit in the air again. That a lot of people are continuing to break the law and ignore the signs on 7th Street, especially. So any help would be great, and you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We did step it up. We wrote quite a few tickets and also handicap parking. This one thing about U-turns, sometimes the police aide will be out there, maybe an officer won't be. But what he does, if he sees the illegal U-turn, a lot of times they turn around and park illegally anyway. So they get a ticket for, at least they get a ticket for something. And some of them have been handicapped and somebody else, and a handicap is actually more money than that U-turn. So we're even working with our police aides in trying to quantify this issue. So you might not see a ticket for the U-turn, but you're seeing a little ticket for illegal parking that is related to that. So I'm really, the police aides, as Trustee Torino said, are really working hard with us, and we're trying to work together. Because sometimes there's different ways to get something done. So if we don't have somebody to see that, but somebody else sees it who doesn't have the power to do the stop themselves, but he has the power to write a ticket, a parking ticket. So sometimes you don't see it one way, but it's another way. But we're in tune on that. We're also working in Parking for 7S. We wrote several tickets the last couple of days to try to quantify that issue also.
Great.
So we'll keep working on that, sir.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate all your help, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Chief Townsend?
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. I'd like to bring item number 17 on tonight's agenda to your attention. Board authorization is requested for the transfer of $21,602.88 from the Hess Estate Fund to facilitate purchase of replacement Hamacho extrication tools for the total amount of $37,252. These funds will be used to replace 2 of our aging extrication tools with modern, eco-friendly models that are powered by high-strength batteries. These upgrades will not only improve our operational efficiency, but also help reduce long-term repair and maintenance costs by eliminating the need for gas-powered pumps and hoses. Additionally, we request that Hendrickson Fire and Rescue Equipment of Islandia, New York be declared the sole source supplier of these tools, including sales, service, training, and parts. This will ensure continued standardization of our rescue equipment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's an important item, Chief, for sure. I know how many you do during the year. Question, which should have been for Superintendent Chivinello. What is the latest on the Edgemere Firehouse? Maybe.
Sure. So we had a conversation with Lizardos. The chiefs met with them via phone call the other day to discuss the apparatus bays. We're trying to find the most efficient and cost-efficient ability for the apparatus doors to look into other, how can I put this, other structural options, including having the doors go up instead of to the side to see if we could fit the fire trucks. We gave them the information regarding the fire trucks, our continued goals to make sure that the apparatus can still fit in the bays, providing ample space between the rigs so members can go between the fire trucks. Other than that, we're still waiting for the final plans.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Giuseppe, can I follow up on that? We talked about this, we've talked about it quite a bit. In your mind, though, we're still in good shape overall for the plans to be finished by the end of the month, correct? You feel confident about that still?
That's correct. I spoke with him yesterday on that. I raised the same question. I just wanted to make sure that those drawings were sent to the structural engineer because that was the second phase of this project, was
Yep.
the engineering. So they were sent last week, and in conjunction with the design architect and engineer, we're soon to get those plans by the end of the month as according to plan.
Great.
And then as soon as we get after that, we'll do one quick overview and we'll try to get these things out to bid for pricing.
Terrific. Do we have the list of contractors we're going to send them out to once we get the
It
plans?
usually goes on Contract Reporter, and we actually get recommendations for contractors. I actually did ask the design professionals. They have a list of people that have done other firehouses, so I'll get that list, and we'll
Terrific.
put it out as much as we can.
Yeah.
This is a big project, so I like recommend it going out for at least 6 weeks.
Great. Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief. And we'll go to Mr. Fishberg now.
Thank you, Mayor. Number 7 on the agenda is designation of 6 more park properties. Number 6 on the agenda is a termination and mutual release with Tyler Technologies. Tyler Technologies was being used by the village, DPW, and building departments for permitting software. The software is proven not to be as efficient as anticipated. The village has terminated that contract. Basically, in the middle of the contract period, the village owes $73,000 or thereabouts to the time of termination. But we've also negotiated that the village is holding a retainage of about $93,000, and the village will retain the retainage. So the payment to Tyler to just end this contract will be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $20,000. And again, it's the contract will be terminated and the mutual releases will be exchanged.
Has the department secured the services of a replacement provider?
Yes, they can tell you.
Yes, we've secured the original provider, which was Municity. We took on the Municity 5, which is an upgrade cloud-based operating software, permitting software that we're going to be shared throughout the village as far as DPW, possibly parks, and the water department. We feel it's a more efficient software for what we need it for.
Right, so thank you, Mr. Fishberg, for your work on these 2 items. And I also want to thank Phil Belmer, one of our village historians, for the work he's done, a lot of work on helping with the parkland designation, such an important issue for the village. The 2 other items on that Mr. Fishberg has helped us with significantly are the 2 public hearings we're setting today as part of the formal agenda. So thank you for that. And I also want to thank for the pool code, which is, I think, anticipated and maybe a bit overdue. Thank you in particular to Trustee Courtney, who's been working on that, as well as Michael Schroeder, who is the chair of the ZBA. And the outdoor dining code has been a lot of work as well. And I want to thank Trustee Courtney again, who's worked hard on that, as well as Trustee Muldoon. And it's involved 2 meetings with the 7th Street, the businesses. And thanks for all the hard work, and we're getting to the end on both, so. Go on to, yeah, so the public hearing on both of those is being set for the March 6th Board of Trustees meeting. Right, so thank you, Mr. Fishberg. Mr. Swazi?
Good evening, Mayor, trustees, members of the public. Mayor, I have a few items tonight under Village Administrator, number 8. the Board Authorization is requested to approve an amended part-time and seasonal salary schedule to include the addition of a part-time senior motor equipment operator as requested by the Department of Public Works. Under the village clerk, number 9, we have a memorandum of agreement. Board authorization is requested for the village to enter into a memorandum of agreement with Nassau County Board of Elections with regard to the village's March 18th, 2025 village election. This is for the use of their voting machines. Village Council has approved this agreement as to form. The cost is approximately $1,750. Item number 10. General Village Election Inspector Residency Resolution. Board authorization is requested to adopt a resolution with regard to the March 18, 2025 village election in connection with the potential lack of certified alternate inspectors who reside in the village. While most of the selected inspectors reside within the village, it is requested that the board waive the residency requirement so as to select additional certified election and alternate inspectors who reside outside the village in order to have a smooth and efficiently run village election. Item number 11, General Village Election Inspectors. Board authorization is requested to appoint the election inspectors for the village election being held on March 18, 2025. Item number 12. Board authorization is requested for the Board of Elections to utilize St. Paul's Recreation Fieldhouse Complex at 295 Stewart Avenue and Village Hall at 351 Stewart Avenue for the Tuesday, June 24th, 2025 primary election and for the Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 general election. Doors will be open at 5 a.m. until at least 9:30 p.m. per day. The Nassau County Board of Elections will reimburse the village $70 for each election day for the use of each of the premises. This has been reviewed by the Village Council and approved as to form. Also, Mayor, there's an item under BOT, which others may want to speak about, but it came out of the Environmental Advisory Board, I believe, and Mr. Carey was involved in this as well. Board of Authorization is requested to approve a smart controller rebate program for the residents of Garden City, in which replacing standard automatic irrigation system clock timers with EPA WaterSense labeled smart irrigation controllers will result in a one-time rebate of $100 on their water bills. Customers requesting the rebate will be responsible for submitting a receipt for the purchase and installation of a smart irrigation controller to the Village Water Department, which may be subject to inspection and verification by the Village Water Department. This rebate only applies to controllers which are purchased after the adoption of this resolution. This program will run for 2 years, beginning April 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2027. I also forgot to mention that the part-time schedule change requested would take effect tomorrow. And there are 2 items on the agenda for our library, and our Executive Director, Marian Malgon, is in the audience. And can you please step up to the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Swazi.
Any
Ms.
questions?
Malagon? Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Swazi. Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees, fellow department heads, residents in the village. The library has 2 items on the agenda tonight. First is item number 14, the engagement of professional services for H2M architects and engineers. Board of Authorization is requested to approve the proposal for professional architectural and engineering services for miscellaneous interior renovations submitted by H2M Architects and Engineers. H2M will define the desired scope of work, provide layouts, generate an opinion of probable cost for 2 scope areas, the meeting rooms and the computer lab area, which will be combined into one lower level renovation project. The work will include architecture and interior design, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and structural engineering. The proposed cost is $64,484, which includes a discount of $3,640 for awarding both the meeting room and the computer lab areas, and a discount of $4,000 for background drawings provided by the village. This agreement is pending approval by council as to form. Funds are available in the library's meeting room project. And then our second request is for Central Station monitoring services with Intelitech. Board authorization is requested to approve a proposal for Central Station monitoring services for the security alarm system submitted by Intelitech at a cost of $60 a month or $720 a year for a term of 5 years. This service provides Central Station monitoring between the library security alarm system, the library's designated personnel, and the Garden City Police Department for the security alarm, panic alarm, gas monitoring alarm, and will include opening and closing reports. This agreement is pending approval by council as to form. Funds are available in the library's security alarm system project in our capital budget. That's all I have. If there are any questions about these items.
I just have a question for Ralph, actually.
Well,
H2
why don't we, while Ms. Milligan's standing up here, if we have any questions on the library items?
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
So I'll,
Any
what I-
questions?
my-
Exciting project, I think, coming up, that
Yes.
lower level, long overdue, and I'm excited to see what their plans are. But
Right.
did you have a question on that?
Yes, I do. And the reason why I was mentioning to Ralph is because you see H2M on a lot of projects involving the water department. And of course, the repair and item number 23 of the underground storage tank. I was just surprised, that the library got involved with that. So that's kind of why I was directing, no disrespect to you, Mary Ann.
Sure. So, I mean, I think that the decision process of how we have arrived at H2M is different for the different projects and departments, but we actually did start working with H2M when we did our children's renovation, which began in 2020. And that was largely due to the relationship that the village had with H2M at the time. They ran into members of the village. Mr. Swazi was there, Chairman at the time, Colahan was there. And they struck up a conversation about how we were struggling to get our children's project off the ground. And they submitted the best design. And I think that project turned out very successfully. And we forged a great relationship with them. They're very familiar with our site. And we've been discussing actually renovating these spaces for a while now. We're just trying to get the actual plans rolling. So to me, that's the evolution of the library's work with H2M, or at least during my tenure. But I think it's somewhat independent. I do think that Ralph and Gary have been trying to work on some synergy among the projects in the different departments, in language, in the agreements and things like that, so that we can streamline our processes as we work with them across the village.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ralph, I got one question for you on something a little unrelated.
Any other questions for Ms. Milligan while she's at the podium
Oh.
on the library?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were done.
Well, I'm
No other
presenting,
questions?
but if the trustees.
You're all good. Keep up the
Great.
good work at the library.
Yeah.
Thank
I
great,
talked to
thanks.
Colleen
Good night.
earlier, so. she's-
Thanks
we're
so
all
much.
good.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll return to if anyone has questions for Mr. Swazi.
Return to Ralph. With the issue last year with our long hay in the village because of that new company we hired, where are we at with making sure that if we're going to go ahead and deal with them this year, that their contracts or their proposals are in
You're
earlier
talking
so we don't
about
have that issue?
The Brightview contract.
Brightview, yeah.
Yes. So when we engage a new contractor, usually the paperwork, when we have a returning contractor like H2M,
Yeah.
insurance documents are pretty easy to get. When we have a new vendor, it usually takes like 4 to 5 weeks sometimes to get them on board. I think the Brightview contract probably took a little longer than we expected.
Yeah.
But since they're on board now, there's no paperwork in the way of their relationship. It's just a matter of a start date.
Great.
And they know the village, and Mr. Gordon has worked with them. I'm sorry. Oh, you met with him today. Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead, Andy. Mr. Hill, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I met with Brightview today. All they need from us is a formal letter to to say that we want to extend them for the second year of their contract, which I spoke to Cassie Reynolds in purchasing department about today. She was going to speak to Mr. Baroni to see whether he'd ever issued one of these letters. But yeah, Cheryl from Brightview was in today, and we spoke about how we're happy with their work and we want to hit the ground running. But I did bring up the issues that we had last year. They reassured me that that won't happen again. And we will plan to, once the weather improves, we will have a team meeting with their guys, Tom Gordon, myself, and make sure that they're fully briefed on what we're expecting going through the spring.
Yeah, from what I heard of everybody, generally speaking, they seem like they've done a lot better job than the other firm that we had before. Would that be correct overall? Great. So just my thing would, again, just let's be ahead of the curve. Let's get all the paperwork in early so we have plenty of time to make sure everything is ready to go in the spring. Because all of a sudden we're into the, second week
it goes
of February, and all of a sudden St. Patrick's Day will be here before we know it. So and there'll be no focus on cutting grass.
So trustee Muldoon, I also want to let you know that the issue you texted myself and John about yesterday, I contacted PSCG by email today. to look into the incident. We had some power outages on work that was done. I asked them to please advise the board and the neighborhoods when they're doing non-emergency work that's scheduled. Emergency situations, it's a little different. They might not have time to notice us. I also want to advise the board that myself, John Baroni, arborist Joe Umana, and input from Mr. Giovanello, we've worked on the second phase of the tree policy. You'll be receiving it in your email boxes either late tonight or very early tomorrow morning, but it'll include 7 documents, which include the revised policy from October of 24. It'll include 2 new applications. It'll include a fee schedule. It'll include all the pertinent changes recommended for the ordinance. It'll require a public hearing. And it'll be laid out in a way that you can hopefully easy to understand. If you have any questions or comments, we'll get to you. But I'd like to put it, my goal is to get a public hearing declared at the next meeting for March 20th, where you can have the public hearing and possibly pass it that evening.
Yeah. Great.
Thanks for the
Thank
work
you.
on that.
Mr. Swazi, with regard to PSE&G and their notifications, are you notified electronically or do they call you or email you? The reason why I ask is I got an alert on my phone that the area was down and didn't have any electric. And the phone and the email came at the same time that I was talking to my wife, and I half expected to hear it. But luckily, my house, which was in the area, was not impacted. So I was kind of curious as to how you get the notification.
So we always get notifications when big events are happening, like weather events. That's standard procedure for all municipal leaders to get notified. Sometimes they get a phone call when something peculiar is going on, something unusual, but almost always via email. Always an email, usually a call. Situations like you're talking about where you have a customer relationship, we get notices. They have smart meters now. We sign up for apps so they can notify customers that way. We're used to the more, door hangers type of situation. So what I've asked them to do based on this recent situation, but we've had conversations like this before, let's just reinforce it. When something's happening in Garden City, Village Hall should know, so we could notify the village clerk, who's going to get phone calls, notify the board, who might be people while you're out getting lunch or breakfast or something. You want to have an answer. But more importantly, when residents call us, we can tell them what's going on, how long it's going to last, or put it on the website. So it's just a communication, amplifying their communication through us to the residents.
Thank you.
Last year, there were a few power outages, and then the power surge was the problem. It was when the power came back on. Because of the strong power surge, I think a lot of people, the appliances, a lot of things were
A
destroyed.
lot of people lost a lot of stuff last year.
Do we know, is there a way to contact them? Do they compensate for the damages? Is there anything?
That would be case specific. I don't know what their policies are.
All right.
Ralph, I got one last one for you. Can you follow up, or Giuseppe, with Nick Fasano, our liaison to the railroad? He was going to come back to us. I know he's working on it, but we can follow up with him just on some options or feedback on regards to the Country Life Press situation with that derelict building. So they did clean up the tracks, thank God, on the majority of the stretch, the heavy construction debris that they had left there. But it'd be nice just to hear back from Nick as to what our options are. You know what I mean? And that's what he was going to find out.
I
what our
will
options.
contact him tomorrow because he actually texted me last night. He wants to talk to me about something, nothing big, he said, but he wants to have a conversation. So we will talking tomorrow.
It's that. Maybe it's that.
It always scares me when they tell me the topic.
Yeah, I know. Thanks.
find out.
Thanks, Ralph.
All right, so thank you, Ralph. At this point, I'm going to invite up former
I just-
mayor. We'll get to comments on
Okay.
from trustees, but we're an hour in, and I know former Mayor Tauchis has another meeting this evening, and he was going to give us a little update on the St. Paul's Committee, so I'm going to give him an opportunity to give that now.
Nope. No, does this work? Very good. Thank you
You're
so
good,
much.
thanks.
So thank you so much. It's a deja vu for me because I did spend a decade in the 90s on that platform, and it's really nice to be on this side also, okay? And I was just reminded that one of the first things I did as a trustee when I was appointed as a member of the Police Commission was promote this fine young officer by the name of Ken Jackson to sergeant. So Sergeant Jackson, you've done very, very well.
Yeah.
So on behalf of Bob Cattell and myself and the entire St. Paul's committee appointed by the board, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for your ongoing support, trust, and confidence. Our committee is composed of 13 other dedicated individuals whose sole purpose is to find the best utilization for the main building at St. Paul's and the best possible path based on the needs of the residents in our village. In all respect, the documentation that, we've been able to review because of, this board and in prior boards, ability to, make that transparent has helped us a lot in the, in our path. We're still in the process of, our research. And we're still in the process of some, interviewing, and we look forward to, a report, late spring, early summer, based on actually, one of the things we decided was that the survey, the results of the survey, we'd like to incorporate and make an integral part of our report, because that'll represent at least the sentiment of the village residents. And, I said pathway because that's what it is. Many administrations, including my own, looked for, a single use for the property. And, we embarked on something which, we knew the village didn't have, which was assisted living, and looked for a partner and looked for someone to, an entity to take over that entire process. The pathway to utilizing St. Paul's, I think, will be somewhat different, and I think is going to be integral in the needs of not only our village, the capital plans of our village and different departments, certainly including recreation, but also, our school. When I look at what we did do immediately was put Cluett Hall in and the field house in immediate use. Cluett Hall for some programs. Field house was the initial use of that was for the 125th celebration of our village. And so many people were involved that we decided not to limit it to the 400, but it was my decision. I was the chair of that to add tents. So we ended up with 1,400 participants attached to the field house in 3 different tents. So there's a lot that we are doing. We are having different meetings with different individuals and different organizations. I do, including, the school administration, also including the St. Paul's Conservancy, the St. Paul's Alliance. And I really want to thank those trustees that have been participating in our meetings in a very positive way. It's been so important to have you in some of these meetings, and I realize your schedule is very busy with all the committees you're on and the board, but I just really want to thank you. I not only know, all of you by now, but because of my age and time in the village, I know have several of your parents, okay? And you did a good job raising them. The parents turned out very well. all right? So with that, I just want you to be assured that, one of the advantages of the time that has passed, despite the disadvantages in terms of, some deterioration of the building, has been technology. And, we are looking at all, geothermal and solar technologies, passive building technologies that, will be able to save us money. But once again, we've got our legal team looking at, any obstacles that may, be in place and that have to be overcome. There may be some legislative efforts that may have to be made. And certainly what we're striving to do most of all is to get the real financial picture so that, our residents and our board will understand that and be comfortable with it. So we look forward to the future meetings that we will have, the town hall meetings. We look forward to participating in those, and that's about it for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Frank, I just want to say a couple of things. First, I want to thank you and Bob Cattell. You're two class acts. You've been around the village for a long, long time. Forget about being a mayor, a trustee, a Marine, and thank you for your service and everything you've done for this country. But working with you guys has been exactly what I thought it would be. You know what? You're two class characters. We have an amazing group on that St. Paul's Advisory Committee that are working their
I agree. They are
their
just
tail off. I mean, I've been around a lot of workers. Everybody in that committee is helping and doing something daily and weekly. And again, just all I've said from day one, turn over every pebble, turn over every stone, find every option we have on every facet of St. Paul's. So we, the board, one day can sit down, hopefully sometime early summer, see all our options, see what the residents want, and combine them both together and move forward from there. And you guys are doing an amazing job, and I want to just thank you guys for all your hard work and all the other trustees who've helped out along the way as well. So keep up the good work, and I hope Bob is having a good time at the Super Bowl, because I believe that's where he is tonight.
He's in New Orleans.
He's in New Orleans.
Yes,
Yes, he
and
is.
he's, and
So-
I want to thank you, Vinnie, for your unrelenting support in every way, okay? This is a marvelous group of individuals, and, you know, their dedication, their professionalism, and their incredible enthusiasm is just, you know, such a benefit to the village and makes Bob's job and my job very, very easy. So thank you very much, all of you.
Thanks, Frank. Team effort. Thank you.
Right, so we'll now go to if trustees wanted to make, I think you were just going to make a comment.
Yes, so Ralph shared the rebate program. I'll just add some more points to that. So the EAB has been working, you know, the EAB has been dedicated to water conservation. We've had some presentations, we've had speakers. That was one of the things that we were really looking into. And the water department also has received many inquiries on high water bills, especially during the summer season, actually also into fall, because this past year, rainfall was very limited. It was very dry, not just in the summer, but also into October. Automatic irrigation systems are the primary contributors to peak seasonal water demand and cause significant pressure reduction during peak demand. And then replacing standard automatic irrigation system clock timers with EPA WaterSense labeled smart irrigation controllers has been proven to significantly reduce water demand by using local weather data to tailor water schedules to actual landscape conditions and needs. It will also relieve our water treatment system by lowering electricity, lowering the amount of chemicals we use, and thus improving energy and saving money. So that's how we came about this program. And it's going to be $100 on your water bills. It's going to be a one-time rebate of $100 on water bills for the installation of an EPA WaterSense smart irrigation controller. So we really hope residents who have not had this installed to install your smart controller and get the rebate, and that's going to help with water conservation, and that's going to relieve our water system. I would just like to thank Liz Bailey on the EAB. She really worked very hard with our water and sewer superintendent, Stan Carey, on this rebate. And I want to thank the EAB board and also my co-chair, Trustee Harrington, and to, you know, for proposing the rebate program. So I think it's a great program. I hope more residents can participate.
Thank you both for your work on the EAB, to our co-chairs, and Elizabeth Bailey is in the room. And I had the pleasure of working with her as well. She is our water expert. And I think I heard Sarah Malin's coming back again to speak again.
Yes.
So thank you. And I'll let you speak, but just a round of applause. This is just a fantastic volunteer. Thank you, Elizabeth. And did you want to announce that EAB meeting with Sarah Malin that's upcoming. It's pretty exciting. She's a
Liz,
terrific-
do you want to talk about that at all and what she's doing? It's a big, you know,
February 12th.
yeah, it's February 12th. It's this Wednesday coming up. And
We previously, she came, was it 2 years ago perhaps, and spoke at an EAB meeting regarding the aquifer.
So this will be, Liz will speak about the presenter.
Sorry. Is this turned on? Yes. So Sarah Malin is a water consultant. And until recently, she retired a year or so ago, but until recently, she was the manager of New York Institute of Technology Center for Water Resources Management. And this will be her third presentation to the GCEAB. And what she is going to talk about next week is the results of the USGS sustainability study. The USGS is working on a sustainability study for Long Island's aquifers. It's the first one, comprehensive one that's been done in about 40 years. It's in 2 phases. The first phase is Kings, Queens, and Nassau. The second phase is Suffolk. Phase 1, which is Queens, Kings, and Nassau, has been completed. That's what she's going to talk about next week. The Suffolk phase 2 is still in progress, and the report on that will not be out for a couple of years.
Thank you so much. I'm sure it'll be a terrific program and timely to have the water sensors rebate because water
All
conservation is
that
so
stuff really
important.
helps. Thanks so much. I want to just jump in on that one as well. I actually met with Stan Carey this morning over on Hilton Park, which is one of the big water treatments we have over in the village, over by 2nd Street. And I will say one more time how impressive our facilities are now and all the great work that's been done over the last 5, 7, or 8 years. It's just amazing to walk through those facilities and for the village to see them. You know, they can't see them. But I talked to Stan there and his team, and they are doing an amazing job. And he asked me one more time, he said, Vinny, can you just tonight mention one more time to the public, if you have a lead line in your home or an old galvanized line, they're gray, they're dark gray, they're dirty looking gray, they come through your foundation wall. 95% of the time it's the front of your home where your water main comes through. You'll see that pipe. If it's a galvanized main or if it's a lead water main, please call them. They will verify it and change it as soon as you possibly can. We're trying to get rid of all the old lead and galvanized mains in the village to make our water better, to make our village better, and to also work with the state because there is state mandates here that are coming down the pike and already exist. So again, one more time, if you have one of these old mains in your house, check it out. If you're not sure, call the water department. They'll send somebody out. And if you want your water tested, they'll also help you out with that as well. So it's very, very important to do that, guys. So thank you.
I tried just to rehash. I tried last week's mayor's column to go out with a message on the water because I think people often they see little bits about the water and they get confused. We've spent all this money. I thought we had AOP, that our water was great. Why am I getting notices? So the simple point that I tried to make is that we have done huge investments in our water treatment and our water quality is meeting or exceeding all standards coming out of our wells. The issue we're facing now is when the water leaves the village main in the street and goes into your home, and that is lead service lines. And that is now, so while the emergent contaminant issues, I thanked the prior boards on acting quickly on that, and we are in really good shape. We're ahead of most communities on that. We're now faced with a very serious lead service line issue, and that is that lead service line is the residents' responsibility from the main to the home. And we're still offering the free lead testing. And the link is on the website. We're now doing that in-house. So contact, if you haven't had your water tested, contact us. And we also have the inventory available through the website, so you can look up and see, find your home on our inventory and whether it is identified as lead, as another material, or is unknown. But there are a lot of presumed lead. So now's the time to, tune into the issue of lead service lines. And thank you for reiterating that, Vinny, and Stan Carey's been
Yeah.
fantastic.
Stan is fantastic. And again, just a quick tip for anybody who's watching or, wherever this information goes. A copper line is the one you want. Copper line is tends to be orangish in color or brown. So orange or brown coming through your wall, you're in good shape, but verify that it is. If it's gray of any type, gray, it's either galvanized or it's lead. That's the simple way to know. And then again, if you want to be sure, all you need to do is call the water department. They'll help you out. But definitely, guys, please, it's important, get those lines changed if you can. Thank you.
Not to stay too long on the water, but because you said that, I want to just let people know, even if you have copper coming into your house, it doesn't mean that there's no lead in your line. And we have had cases where it's copper coming into the house and high lead levels. So it may not be known what is between your house. It could have been a partial replacement at one time. So if you have lead coming in, if you have copper coming in, that is good, but you're not guaranteed. You still should test your water and check with the water department. Did you want to say something?
I did want to add something to that, Mayor. I just want to let everyone that is listening, the village is waiving any permit fees for that matter. So even though you still need to file for building a permit and DPW permit, the village is waiving those fees.
Now one more question for you. So some homeowners, they have replaced their lead service lines, and the building department inspects the lines upon completion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then you make sure the whole entire line is replaced.
That is
not
correct.
just
Yeah,
partially.
we're holding an inventory list that Mr. Carey has, and as long as actually all three departments, we have the list of what's been done so far.
But let me make a clarification on that, because I just went through this with a customer on the other side of town in Cambridge. As exactly what happened. They had copper coming through the wall. They all of a sudden, there's a flood out in the street, and brought water department out. Great. They said, hey, sorry, but you got a burst line. They're like, we got copper coming through the main. It happened 2 weeks ago, and they dug it up, and it was lead from the street, and it was the other side of the street, which was a real pain, going in and tied in at what they're called their curb box.
Yeah.
Right.
So now, if my thing is correct with Stan, now if you change your water main, you have to change it all the way
All the
from
way to the
inside
curb.
your house all the way to the main, because there is an intermediate connection, which is called a curb box.
That's correct.
Okay, on the sidewalk or in your grass. And now, so Mary's point is right. Just because it's coming through the wall and it's copper, it may not be copper all the way through, because a lot of people change them from their house to the curb box and did not go from the curb box into the street. So it's kind of two different parts.
And another thing is the inside the house, some of the plumbing devices. So sometimes the plumbing, the pipes are okay, but it's the actual devices inside the house. So make sure
Yeah,
that,
the fittings, right.
yeah.
So all that should be checked, and if you do have it, it should be replaced.
The good news on that, though, Jess, just so you know, the majority of the old homes that were built in the village, if they're really old and antiquated, they would have had brass and then changed them to copper. They would not have been lead on the inside of the house. They use lead for actually some of the old traps, but that's just for the wastewater in your bathtub and your sinks and the old slop sinks. You'd still actually see them in some of the old homes. They would be lead as well, but not the actual domestic water. They would be brass in the old days. So.
The big takeaway is, if you haven't done so already, test your water for lead and take steps to find out what I think the big takeaway is to test your water for lead if you haven't done so already. That's being provided free by the village. And take steps to identify your lead service line from your home all the way to the main. So, all right. Any other trustee comments? All right, so
I have one more, Mary, just in regards to, most of you guys might have seen it either on our website, in the paper, over social media. We're having a big town hall meeting for the St. Paul's new survey coming up. Anybody with any questions, we'd love to see them there. It's next Tuesday night. It's the 11th, starting at 7 p.m. until we finish and answer everybody's questions. In regards to everything that's on that survey. I know a lot of people have questions and some will have concerns, and we want everybody there, and feel free to ask us as many questions as they want, and we will be ready to answer all those questions for you. And again, that's at the casino next Tuesday night at the 11th at 7 p.m. So please come down and ask as many questions as you can and you want.
All right, we have Mr. Wilton now from the Chamber of Commerce to give us a brief update.
Mayor, trustees, first and foremost, if you'd be so kind to welcome Miss Halen. She is assisting with the chamber and volunteering, so her first name is Teresa, and she's certainly getting an education. So I want to thank you for donating your time. We have a couple of really good initiatives going on. First of all, the feedback, Mayor, trustee from the businesses in the community were good. There was some dissidence about certain other items, but at least the feedback is that we're embracing and we're helping and things are going forward. So that's a good thing. We have 2 ribbon cuttings scheduled that will be coming up. We'll let you know when, 3. The community flag program is going forward. I call Mr. Baroni. We're trying to figure out the diameter of the flags. We have wooden flags altogether. They weigh about 1,800 pounds. We're going to get aluminum poles, etc. May have to change the diameter of some of the devices that hold them securely in the ground, etc. We're trying to come up philosophically with something kind of promenade-ish, but different. One of them is I've spoken to some of the major restaurants. Do a taste of Garden City. For those of you that may have remembered a long time ago, we did it at Lord and Taylor. It was very successful. And we're going to we're working on it. We're massaging it. Hopefully we'll come up with something that's very productive and it'll work out and maybe we can do it on 7th Street or we'll come up with something. I've spoken to other communities that have done it. Rockville's done it, Bethpage has done it, Huntington has done it, Oyster Bay has done it, so we'll see. Truro has a student volunteer legal clinic. So they've reached out to us and said that if we have any of the local businesses that want free legal guidance, they'll set up a, seminar and or whatever. So we'll send that out to the members and try to get that forward. We're working on the Easter Car Parade as we speak, so we'll try to start getting that going as fast as we can. We have a Garden City Connect coming up February 27th, 5:30 at Adelphi. If you could, we'd like you to come. It shows a, good form of cooperation between the trustees and the business community. I did have the pleasure of having 2 Uber drivers come to me who were very expressive about some tickets that they were issued. And I'd spoken to the commissioner and obviously they had violated the law and trying to come up with a solution. So each Uber driver, when they come into a store, they pick up a package that has a number on it or a name on it where they're going to deliver it to and who's picking it up. So there's interns working. Teresa and I are going to go as soon as we have interns working. So we're going to try to attach something to every bag when they pick it up that says, maybe it'll be humorous, maybe it'll be not humorous, but something saying, hey, follow the rules, follow the regulations. Be advised that if you violate them, you're going to suffer the consequences because what's happening is for every action is another reaction. What's happening is the business community is calling me saying, hey, it's affecting us because now our Uber drivers saying they don't want to come. Okay, so, we have to look at the balance. So hopefully we'll be able to come up with a solution. Also, we had 9 years ago an indoor football league in Nassau County. And I don't know if anybody, I do remember it. I actually went to a couple of games, 50 yards, very fast, big rubber things on the wall and guys bouncing off the wall. Well, they're starting another one. So they reached out to me. I've had one meeting, they're going to have another meeting. And because football's a religion in Garden City, they want to make certain that we interface with them and try to promote it. And we'll see, maybe they'll have clinics for the kids or whatever the case may be. It may have legs on it. I don't know yet. It's just at the birthing stage. And that really is it. And I would like to really address that we do need to do something about, and I spoke to Mr. Finneran just the other day, the enforcement of the is eminent now on 7S and 7N. And, that solution may be when we put the things on the bag or something. I think what you just said, Trustee Torino, about the U-turns, because it's endless. Perhaps we can come up with something. But there is an adverse effect in the business community when they say that the Uber drivers don't want to, they don't want to come to Garden City anymore. That's not been all the businesses, that's been some of the businesses. So I told them we're going to keep enforcing the law and that's what it is. And they have to abide by it and come up with a solution. The one thing I will say about the Easter Car Parade is if you remember, my insurance carrier notified me they would no longer insure us this year. because they videotaped it last year. And they were throwing candy to the kids and they thought that, you know, it could be very dangerous, whatever the case may be. So this year, we're going to take 2 places on 7th Street, which will be allocated where the vehicle could stop and hand candy to the kids instead of throwing it as they did going up and down the street. So that they'll still be able to do that. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
The
Thank you.
Taste of Garden City sounds like a great idea. I'd love to see that because Mineola had that for years. The Mineola Chamber had that,
Yes, yes.
the Jericho Terrace, and it was really, really good.
We're thinking the problem with doing it on 17, I'll be very brief, is unfortunately the Board of Health requirements. You have to have a hand washing station, 140-degree temperature control, and it has to have a roof over it, meaning a tent. So if they're serving food on the street and they bring it from their restaurant to the street, they have to comply with the Board of Health. Those that are like, if you're at El Gufo or Walk Street or, I'm sorry, Leo's or whatever, if they prepare it in their kitchen and deliver it to the street, they don't have to comply to that. But if you're Revel and you're bringing your product to 7th Street, you have to comply with all the rules and regulations. And they enforce it very strictly. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Wilton,
Yes, sir.
I have a certain sensitivity to the Uber drivers because I was standing out there when one of them decided that the blue square was a reserved parking space for him.
Mhm.
Now, he might not have seen the handicap sign. But he then, when he got the ticket, started to yell at the police aide.
Oh.
At
He
which
came
point,
to me, I think.
I then said, and he then says, well, I now paid for the spot. And I said, if you don't move your car,
We
we will
own your
keep
car.
it. So part of the difficulty with cars in 7S is how do you balance the number of spaces and the utility? And I have seen on a number of occasions where the police department will chalk the tires and the employees go out there and take the chalk off.
Correct.
Somehow along the line, we have to balance that the short walk between 6S or E is a better space for long-term parking than coming out and depriving their own customers of that utility. But I don't leave that up to you, just to communicate to them that if they have a solution, we'd love to hear it.
I ate at a restaurant tonight before I came here, and the principal of the restaurant said to me, can't we donate 2 spots on 7th Street? They're carved out just for the delivery services. And I said, we don't have the latitude to do that. We don't have enough parking. To answer your question, let's see, probably maybe Mr. Fishberg was here. Cameron Engineering did a study 17 years ago. And they said if all the they did a 1-week study. And they said if all the employees did not park in 7S, there would be, and I'm almost accurate, I think they said 1,018 spots a day. Because what would happen is, I'm giving you hypotheticals, 6 young ladies or men would be in the salon, they'd park for 2 hours, come out and move their car. They weren't solving anything, they were just moving their cars around. He said if they were gone, because they actually equated, you go into the dry cleaner, you're there for 6 minutes, you go into Walk Street, you're there for an hour and a half, you go into the stationery, you're in there for 7 minutes. And they did this whole algorithm and put it in a blender and hit pulse, and that was the solution. I don't know how to enforce it all the time. Since I had blonde hair, I've been telling people park in that lot.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I can't tell you how you can enforce it.
John, I got one quick one for you. What date did you say that event was at Delphi?
It is February 27th, 5:30 to 7:30,
27th, right?
February 27th.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Now, what are the hours that the car services are looking to be afforded to them?
I certainly could, I mean, they get pickup and drop offs all day long, from morning till night.
Where-
Sweet Greens, I actually spoke to the Sweet Greens regional manager. Our Sweet Greens, roughly about 55% of their net business is pickups from Instacart and Uber Eats and, you know.
So
it-
let us assume that we would consider looking into 7N, not on 7th Street, but
I
on
understand.
the north side or the south side.
Yep. I mean, there may be a value to that, but that's something that would really have to say, gets the traffic.
Well,
impact.
since you have the pulse on that end of the community, would that be amenable to them?
The personalities of the drivers and their academic wherewithal would probably be difficult to get them to understand what we're trying to get them to do.
Mhm.
They're very assertive. They want to get in, they want to get out, they want to do their delivery. The two guys that came into me, it might have been the guy with it might have been the same fella. When he came to me, he said, I'm making no money today because of what your village did to me, because the one fine is I'm going to make $80 today. You're one fine. And I said, well, yeah, I'm sorry, there's nothing you can do. You
I'll
broke the
close it out on this note. If they just follow the law and not be lazy and, park in a spot and run over to the store and grab their bag and run back legally and deliver their goods, they wouldn't get any tickets.
Vinny for
That's my
president.
view.
We can wrap it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, do we have any citizen comments on agenda items in the room? Yes.
I just have one on the formal agenda one. My name is David Karate. I lived at 57 Poplar Street since 2012. I bought a bigger 100 by 150 lot with the intention of having a pool for my family one day and believe I should not have the rules potentially changed midway through the process with regards to what we want to do on the property. There's also been not a ton of transparency with this, which is frustrating given the potential impact. Currently, you can cover your entire backyard in pavers or have a full outdoor kitchen or pickleball court. Is there a difference between that and a pool? There are accessory structures allowed near property lines that are much more invasive than a pool. I understand why this is a concern with smaller properties and appreciate the need for some formalizing code. However, the potential code changes could affect the feasibility of properties like mine, which have the size but might have some nuances to the space when we've started the process, where we have a space for a pool, a big green area, and privacy from neighbors who can't see us. The need to get your neighbor's approval for the variance also allows the decisions or objections to be made by the community of neighbors as opposed to a group changing the rules for properties that have a lot of nuance. Life is busy. Everyone doesn't have the time to go to the beach or town pool or join a beach club or afford to go out east. Pool is a great option for a family like mine to build the summertime memories in a way that works for us. Thank you.
All right, thanks. We will be having a public hearing on it,
Yeah,
which
I
I
just
assume
wanted to
you'll
get
be
on
there.
record beforehand,
Yeah,
just 'cause it
okay.
was just
All right, any other comments on agenda items in the room? Yes?
Steve Alardi, Meadow Street. I'm not sure if the pool slide was an agenda item, but it was mentioned, and I've mentioned it in the past. I know other villages shrink wrap the slide in the off-season. Might be something to look at once you get the new one, since it sits out in the open for 9 months unused. But on agenda item 4, it wasn't mentioned exactly what the damage was done by 555. I'm assuming landscaping possibly. But have we looked at the plantings and the lights and how it's going to affect the Raymond Court houses now that that building's getting close to being occupied? Because I know, there was a lot of discussion in the beginning that there would be plantings and the lights wouldn't, penetrate their backyards and things like that. So if we can keep that in mind as we're doing work around that property. And on item 9 and item 12, I find it ironic that we're spending $1,750 to use voting machines from Nassau County. And for them to use our field house for 16 and a half hours, we're getting $70, which equates to $4.25 an hour. It just seems like it's always a one-way street, whether it's Adelphi or Nassau County. And why is it only $70 for them to use Village Hall and the field house for those 2 different days? And we have to spend $1,750 for their machine. It doesn't seem like it's a fair deal.
It's not. Totally agree with you.
All right, any other comments?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Any other comments in the room on agenda items?
Hey, I'll be quick. Ray Meyer, 85 Amherst Street. On item number 6, is it the case that Tyler Technologies isn't meeting or delivering on its obligations of the agreement? Or are we making a voluntary choice to go with somebody else and deciding to pay the termination penalty and it's outside of a material breach? So they're paying us? Why are we paying the $75,000?
They had a contract for 2024. And they actually were terminated on June 13th, I think it was. That 73,000 represents that, that period from January 1 to June 13th.
Right, so the money's going to Tyler Technologies.
Well, that they serviced the village during that period of time. And the village has been holding back about $93,000, which they're not going to get.
So we're paying what we owe them for the services they provide us during
Correct.
that time. It's not a termination penalty.
No, it's not a
Right.
termination penalty. And in fact, the village is getting back $93,000 that they otherwise would have had to pay Tyler.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Any other comments in the room on agenda items? Any comments on Zoom on agenda items? None? Okay, we have no further comments on agenda items. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of January 16th, 2025? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that, 7 in favor, 1 abstain. And we'll move on to the formal agenda. Do we have, and I did discuss this a bit before, do we have a motion to set the date for the public hearing regarding amendments, section 200-45 of the Village Code with regard to swimming pools? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that passes unanimously. Do we have a motion to set the date for a public hearing regarding an amendment to chapter 148 of the Village Code with regard to outdoor dining? All in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously as well. And do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar with the minor one amendment on number 22, replacing Maryland Avenue improvement with business district paving? All in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Right, do we have any citizen comments in the room on non-agenda items? Mr. Russo?
Hi, I'm Carl Russo, 6 Edgemere Road, and I'm just looking for a clarification in reference to the survey. Now, when the survey goes out, is it going out one per home, or is it going out one? My wife and I, we own the house, so shouldn't she be getting a survey, and shouldn't I be getting a survey? Or is it just one per home?
1 per home.
Well, I don't think that's fair. I really don't. I mean, when this first started out and we came and we voted on it, all the village, all the people who live in the village voted on it. Now you're going to say that only 1 per home? I mean, I've been married for 53 years and my wife and I agree on a lot of things, but some things we don't agree on. And I
Well-
really don't think this is fair. And it's, I wish you guys would consider that.
This was discussed early on. That's just how the surveys are done, and it is recognized that there may be houses divided, and we wish you the best.
Well, that's a kick in the pants.
Open the envelope first, that's all I.
Bring her home some flowers tonight and you'll work it out better.
Great. Any other comments in the room on agenda items? I'm sorry, non-agenda items. Waiting.
Good evening. I'm Robert Hurst, 111 Cherry Valley Avenue. So I would like the mayor to provide an update on the Board of Trustees' efforts to receive pilot payments from Adelphi other than the $25,000 that Adelphi pays to park its buses on village property. Several months ago, at a Board of Trustees meeting, I suggested that the mayor apprise Adelphi of the cost incurred to provide the university with services for our police, fire, and sewer departments, as it is often customary for private universities to reimburse local governments for such costs. In fact, many schools make payments that are equivalent to the full real estate taxes as if they were taxable entities. As such, I am providing the mayor with an article from the Brown Daily Herald about how Brown University and 3 other institutions have agreed to make substantial pilot payments to the city of Providence.
Oh.
And there's also a lot of information on the city's website about this situation. My next topic, which I brought up several times.
Do you want me to actually, just for clarity, since you're going on to another topic, I'll let you know, thank you for this. This was actually circulated amongst the trustees already, this article.
Okay.
Appreciated. We did have an initial meeting. I'm working with trustee Harrington and trustee Courtney on this. And we are scheduled, we had our first meeting and we're planning to have another meeting in early March.
Okay, good. And thank you also for getting the, what was it, $1 million and something from the Long Island Railroad for the Maryland Avenue. It was in the June financial statements that I did notice. Okay, thank you. That's good. My next topic is about healthcare costs and post-employment benefits. As I brought up in the past, the village needs to address the escalating cost of providing 100% of the cost of healthcare benefits to its employees. Over the last 5 years, these costs have increased by 35% versus a 20% increase for the cost of, as measured by inflation, just the general CPI. And that's for the active employees. It's not for the retirees that I'm referring to. In fiscal 2004, these costs amounted to $25,000 per employee. And after including accruals for providing employees with healthcare and retirement, the total healthcare cost per employee is $47,100 based on my calculations. This is an extraordinary benefit that few private sector workers enjoy, and I encourage village residents to look at their W-2 forms to see how much their employer is paying of their healthcare costs. After including interest accruals for retirees, the total cost of providing healthcare to active and retired village employees was $12,300,000 in the last fiscal year, or 18% of village revenues. Consequently, healthcare represents the village's second largest expense after salaries and wages. I would like to point out that the village also has a $100 million liability for post-retirement healthcare. This liability is not funded. New York State prohibits municipalities from funding this liability, which is not the case for many other places in the country and certainly not the case in the private sector. However, this huge liability never seems to get any attention. And to put it into perspective, and I brought these figures up in the past, they were different figures, of course, because we're dealing with new financial statements. This liability is more than 3 times the level of the village's bonded debt, which is $31 million at the end of the last fiscal year. So I have written to you, Mayor, last year, and I made suggestions about this. I spent a tremendous amount of time on what I prepared for you and the other trustees, and the village really needs to spend some time working on this. I know it's not easy. You're dealing with unionized workers, and this level of benefits, it just needs to be controlled. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments, and we did all read your submissions, so.
And I'm glad that you read the article from
Yeah.
Brown already. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, citizen comment on a non-agenda item?
Good evening, Frank McDonough, 141 Hampton Road in Garden City. I'd like to follow up on Frank Tauch's brief statement and congratulate this board and many of its members for the incredible work you've done on that committee. It's taken a lot of time and effort, but I believe, and the Conservancy believes, that it'll be worthwhile. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Peter Cole and the St. Paul's Conservancy, and I want to make 3 points and then just give one brief award. The Conservancy, as you know, is a 20-plus year charitable organization that has dedicated itself to educating residents about possible future financing plans and other ways to utilize the St. Paul's facility. As we approach the incoming election, this work by the Conservancy becomes even more important. one of the first things we do is education. When you look at articles in the Garden City News more recently that we're familiar with a very substantial chart, it becomes incumbent on the Conservancy to correct errors. This is an embarrassingly incorrect chart. It's so blatantly wrong that we will be commenting on it. I'll just give you one brief comment, just so you know how wrong it is. Under a headline that says debt service, it then produces a chart also called debt service. The chart, however, itself has nothing to do with debt service. The village's debt service is only about $8 million per year, sometimes 10, depending. But if you look at this chart, you show $20 million for years and then all the way up over 100. If you had $100 million of debt service or $2 million a week, you're talking several hundred million, almost $1 billion worth of debt. That's not this case. I feel badly for the Garden City News that gets to publish this, especially in the article in which it's stated on the front page, the village approves millions of dollars for St. Paul's abatement. Unfortunately, our Garden City News sometimes is fed misinformation, and the Conservancy is going to address that over the next few weeks before the election. That's point one. Point two is there are lots of opportunities that Frank Touch just meant where we can show that there is money to be saved. And that's in, for example, working cooperatively with the school board as we have for the last 2 years to show how St. Paul's could be a way to save several million dollars, tens of millions of dollars on the UPK. Finally, over the spring, we will introduce, in addition to our normal plan that we've described in the past, where we felt that cost per individual average homeowner would be less than $400 for a $60 million program, where we will show an opportunity to perhaps drop that by almost 50% to make it even more affordable. And we'll do that in the spring. So from the point of view of the Conservancy, we're talking about education, we're talking about village-wide capital planning, and we're talking about the opportunity to further reduce costs and make a project worthwhile. So those are the 3 points that we will be doing over the next several weeks and months, and further educating, especially as the BCI report comes out. Now for the award. Over the last year since April, the Conservancy has noted that there hasn't been a lot of areas of common ground between ourselves and the mayor. But we have noticed and recognized your amazing perseverance, your amazing steadfastness in presenting your opinion. And we'd like to recognize that. And in honor of the era in which we are and the month in which we are in,
I thought it might be a gift, but I wasn't going to guess that.
it's not a gift, because if it's a gift, Gary would want to see how much it was.
Right.
This is an award.
So
Whether you run or don't run, whether you stay or don't stay in the village, consider joining the Conservancy. Consider using all of your talents for a common vision. We'd love to have you. We think you'd be in that.
So thank you for the chocolates. And just to stay true to my reputation of speaking clearly, and honestly, I would urge you not to go out with numbers. I know you mentioned the 400 and now you're going to cut that down. Please do not go out. And I can't, it's free speech. You're an organization. You can do whatever you want. But I ask as a community member who's not running for mayor, but also not going anyplace, that you not put numbers out to the community until they've been vetted by the village. And, you know, the last time the numbers went out, we were never able to. We went to council, we spent money going to council to try and figure out if there was a way with your Conservancy approach to validate those numbers. Unfortunately, they had already gone out to the community. And it was through a village meeting, which I remain uncomfortable about. So I would just ask and I'm sure you saw the legal advice from Ruskin Moscow, and it's still on our website, and that was left, they could not find any mechanism to get to those numbers, and we had asked for more details on your conservancy plan. I've asked multiple times, I don't want to sit down and have a cup of coffee. I just want the numbers. I want the details to give to council. I know Ed Finneran has tried to get those as well. And even the new committee that's working so hard, they have some people tasked with that, and they remain absent. So
Well,
it would be.
may I just
Yep, let me
remind
just
you-
finish
oh,
though.
yeah.
I would love to have those details, and I would urge you, the numbers that I'm still waiting on documentation on our new committee numbers, as everyone knows, but those numbers are considerably higher than the numbers you put out. So the numbers matter because we're talking about a project that could potentially handicap a village we all care deeply about. It could result in debt that we could not manage. We couldn't, it is a tremendous project. We need to go forward with eyes wide open and with honest, conservative numbers. And I think anyone looking at the building knows we're not going to know exact. It will likely be more than we can even estimate, right, with a building of that age. But let's be careful as we speak to residents, because a big concern of mine is that residents will have the impression that it's going to be a cup of coffee a day and they'll all get on board. And then we start the project and they find out it's not that at all. And that it's more than we can handle. So that's my only, thank you for the gift. Thank you for coming up. I'm going to continue while I'm not running for mayor. I'll be around and I'll continue to speak. Thank you for the invitation. But that is my urging, is to just hold off on going out with numbers until you've presented them. You've got a friendly board here.
Well,
Bring
Mayor, if you
everything
may,
to them.
you may remember, in fairness now, we were willing to present them back in October of 2023 and did at a community center, the community church. And then in April of 24, in the basement of the library, where Peter and I were there, we offered to present them to you after the meeting, and in fact presented them to Ruth Chester's wife, who was at the meeting, and that we have always been available. And as for Ruskin Moscow, there are 2 points that should be noted there. Number one, at no place in any public document does Ruskin Moscow ever indicate expertise in municipal finance. In fact, their full opinion, which was never published, says that the financial plan by the Conservancy is legally permissible. And number two, if you were, instead of asking Ruskin Moscow, who has a real estate expertise, and they commented on the real estate expertise on the Conservancy plan and criticized it on real estate matters. The Conservancy plan was never, has never, and will never be a real estate transaction, as I've expressed to Gary. It's something different. And so the Ruskin Moscow opinion has zero bearing on this. And in fact, if you wanted to find out, which we have said to many members on the board, and I believe to you, that if you wanted to find out more about the financing, all you had to do was talk to bond counsel, Hawkins, Delafield, and Wood. Why is that? Because they have, like many of the other major law firms in New York City, approved this very financing several times for institutions like the Museum of Modern Art, the Whitney, which was the last time I think Hawkins opined on it. So this is not something funky or new. This is a 20 or 30-year process. And Ruskin Moscow has no more credibility in this field or in this case than any other negligence law firm made. It's just not, they're a wonderful firm. They have a lot of things to say on real estate. It doesn't apply. And as for the numbers are simple arithmetic, which we have gone through in town halls for several years. We will present them again.
Yeah, we'll disagree on Ruskin Moscow, for one thing. And as far as speaking to bond counsel, I did extensively. We did a whole presentation from bond counsel before the public opinion poll. So it remains my request that you know, provide all the details of the plan. Maybe you can bring it up in a bag to the next meeting. So
We would
thanks
be-
for
we would
coming.
be- We would be happy to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can I,
Happy Valentine's Day.
can I ask you,
Details.
can I ask you one question, Frank? The St. Central Park Conservancy had at least 700 million to start off with.
The
And
Central
that
Park, the Central Park Conservancy, what?
had at least 700 million to start off with, and I may be low on that number. How much money does your conservancy have?
We're a charitable organization. We are not giving out public money, public statements as to what our balance sheet is, and we are not describing our contributors. We owe them that level of discretion. But when we continue with our fundraising, we'll be happy to present what those numbers are.
Well, I think the public needs to know that when that happens.
I think the fact that we're offering the public three things. Number one, a mechanism where they can save a significant amount of money in annual debt service, not debt service. Number two, a mechanism to provide continuity in terms of managing the project, which has been the bête noire of this project for 30 years, okay? And number three, an opportunity to bring in philanthropic dollars, all of which add to the ability of the Conservancy or any organization around the country that does this to help government finance projects that they are not readily equipped to do. This board is not different. This issue, this problem of revolving semi-annual, annual elections is a problem, and that's why infrastructure is hard to build in this country.
How do you,
Well,
I'm having
yeah, I
trouble.
think, yeah.
How do you what?
how do you propose to get the money for the Conservancy?
The Conservancy will borrow in the capital markets, just like any other of the charitable organizations have in New York City.
I want to jump in here for 1 second because I'm involved obviously with the St. Paul's Advisory Committee, just so the residents know who's on Zoom and in the room. One of the things I've tasked the new St. Paul's Advisory Committee to do on the finance and the legal side is I asked them to do two things when it comes to conservancies: to look at every possible option we have to finance this project in the best possible way for the taxpayer in this village. One was to talk to the conservancy that exists in the village that has been involved in some of the stuff which Frank McDonough and Peter Call are. And then I specifically said, which they're working on right now and will be for the next month, they're going to discuss and meet with 3 other conservancies in New York State. They're going to pick, and I think they already have them chosen, and see exactly how those conservancies work and the viability of those conservancies, how they're financed, how they work, how their boards are set up. And in their report, when they come back with this great report that they will come back in a couple of months, late spring, early summer, they were going to do a full analysis of conservancies and how they work, not just Frank McDonough and Peter Call's conservancy. I told them specifically, pick 3 and do a full analysis and come back and give us a complete report of what you find and exactly how this all works. And that's what they're going to do. So it's not going to be just about Mr. McDonough or Frank McDonough and Peter Call's conservancy. It's going to look at exactly how conservancies really work from an unbiased perspective and come back to us, the board, and say, here's how they work, here's how they don't work, here's their advantages, here's their disadvantages, every bit of information, so we can analyze it and make the decision on what's in the best interest and the best way to finance these projects, depending on what the residents want when we come back with this survey. And that's how it's going to work.
We welcome that opportunity.
Thank you.
But let me help you with that, Commissioner, Trustee Muldoon. The name Conservancy was picked by Peter Negri 20 years ago because he felt it paralleled the Central Park Conservancy. There's nothing magic about conservancy. The issue, which Hawkins will tell you, and if Robert Smith were here, he would tell you, is that it is a charitable organization that acts as an interface on behalf of the government, which is exactly what Ruskin Moscow said was permissible in their note. And so on that basis, we're happy to see that. But the ability to finance this, there have been billions of dollars done in New York City this way. And the ability to translate that into a financing that saves the village a substantial amount of money is what we're here to talk about. And we're open to that. And I'm happy to buy dinner for anyone who would like either hear more or find out why these numbers have been good from the get-go.
Thank you. You can't buy dinner for anyone on the Board of Trustees.
Right.
So let me
It
just.
was an extra
So
conversation.
it's clear,
$175.
though, so people aren't, it's not the structure, and I agree, you could do a conservancy. What they couldn't get to is the cost savings that was associated to get to those low numbers, avoiding prevailing wage, all these other promises of the conservancy, they could not
Happy.
make
to-
that.
Can I
happy-
ask you
happy
something,
to discuss.
Frank?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Ruskin Moscow ever reach out to the St. Paul's Conservancy to ask you or Paul or Peter Cole any of the ways that you got to your numbers? Did they ever reach out to speak to you?
No,
They're not authorized to do that. So
They-
what we
well,
had done
if they're
was.
doing an analysis for St. Paul's and they're saying that the St. Paul's Conservancy is off on their numbers, they had every right to be able to go talk to the people about it.
That would go through the Board of Trustees. So what I had proposed, which I thought was a fine idea, and it has not been, no one's taken me up on it, to both Michelle and Ed, was that we have a meeting with Ruskin Moscow, and you and Peter
Happy
Cole
to
can
do it
come
at
in,
your
and
convenience.
they can ask you all their questions and finish their report.
Mary, I didn't even know Ruskin Moscow had been hired as the trustee.
I've told the meeting, I just mentioned that I don't know why you didn't know that, but this meeting, I have been for about a year now suggesting we do that to tie this up and get the final advice from council.
Mayor,
My quick view, excuse me, Bruce, just one quick second, since I was involved in that particular chore that the board had undertaken. I think Ruskin Moscow's work speaks for itself. I think they came out with a report. We asked them to come out with a report. There was an attempt to engage in conversation. It didn't happen. In my view, we are past Ruskin Moscow. We have moved on to another very well put together committee. We are into a survey process. We are moving forward. We know what what Ruskin Moscow's strengths are and why they were hired. But in my view, that's yesterday's news. There is history there, and I'm not running away from history, but we have moved on, and I would suggest that this committee and this discussion move on.
Yeah,
Trustee Finneran, we did not raise Ruskin Moscow.
Yeah,
We were moving on,
yeah,
and we will continue to move on.
I
But
would.
we will not move on when there's misinformation.
That I understand.
Let me just say one thing though, as far as we're not gonna have a volunteer committee give us legal advice or financial advice, that's, I
One-
think,
one quick
obviously
question.
inappropriate.
No, we will hire professionals. This chore has been the subject of 3 committees now. Each have been additive, I would say, for sure. And this committee is going in a different direction. And as Trustee Muldoon has said, we are going to uncover every rock and every stone and provide the people in the audience and on Zoom and in this village with a choice. And then we're going to move forward.
That's all we've asked. But my point to Trustee Muldoon was as he goes down the road on conservancies, he's going to miss the point. It is not about a quote conservancy. The question is there a legal structure, starting with a 501c3, whether you call it a conservancy or a trust or a who knows what, that can help the village reduce its costs? And the answer is resoundingly yes. And Hawkins Delafield knows that.
Good. And then one final point, that this committee,
I don't want Vinnie going down a road and had someone picking him off saying, well, you didn't look over here.
understood.
Great committee, and they deserve that because none of them have municipal finance experience.
Understood. From what I have seen from this committee, and I've been in a number of meetings, there is no preconceived notions. There are tasks, and there is openness, and there is transparency, and that's what's going to lead us to the good information that we're going to need to make a decision after taking everything that we have received from the residents.
And we're available if they would like to meet with us.
Thank you.
One quick question. I wasn't really on the board until, when we got elected this past election, April 1st. So this was the
Ruskin Moscow.
Ruskin Moscow, that was before,
That was before you were elected.
before we were
Yes.
elected. So was there a vote to hire them?
No, they were on our list of approved counsel for real estate. And we did not have trustee Torino's resolution. So we don't, I think we've had this public discussion before, but no, as we often do, we have them
They were.
work on a task because they were already our
Let's
counsel
be
for real estate.
accurate. Trustee Harrington and I were both trustees at the time. We were specifically excluded from any information with regard to Ruskin. I very much agree with trustee Finneran that we should move on. And I regret the fact that you are still using Ruskin as if it was applicable to the circumstances at hand.
It's the advice we have. And trustee Finneran was on the legal committee and very much involved in all of that. And I don't,
was excluded.
I don't know why that was, and I would question that, but I'm not going to go back and search through all the
I think we
emails.
should move on.
I certainly thought you were aware.
And Trustee
let's move
Fenneran,
on.
just so we're clear,
Yes, sir.
although it's been named the Cole McDonough Conservancy,
No.
that's not fair.
No, it's not.
While we have dedicated years for that, it was Peter Negri, Larry Rafferty, Mike Chiappa. There must be 20 other people who are part of this. The fact that we came on as trustees a few years ago, meaning 3, would be inappropriate. So we don't need ad hominem attacks that'll come from the people who do not know. This is a legitimate technique which we are happy to defend several more times in public. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm just going to close up on,
Don't lose the candy.
I'm going to close up on one final comment, just to make it clear, ultimately clear one more time. And Frank, yourself, Peter Cole, and you talked about that gentleman, Peter Negre. I mean, just another great gentleman, this village that gave a lot to this village and will be forever remembered for that, for a lot of different things, just a class act. But again, one more time, the job and the whole idea of having this new St. Paul's Advisory Committee, just like the other committees that put in enormous amount of hard work, and we're using a lot of their information that they obtained and committees before them to basically look at every possible option and look at things a little bit differently than we've been looking at them, to find the best possible way and all the best possible information to eventually, please God, and I firmly believe we will, get a project done at St. Paul's that the majority of the residents will support, and also find the best financial vehicle to do that so we can save the residents money and lower their tax burden as much as we possibly can, but knowing that if we're going to do a project, yes, taxes are going to go up to some degree. Our job is to find the best possible options to fund a project like this and to spread out the debt so it doesn't hurt the people that are immediately sitting in front of us for the first 10 years or 20 years, spread it out over that 30-year period and create different ways to help out on that debt.
And as my introduction said, we support that group and you and Bruce and the other trustees who have done it. And we look forward to an open debate whenever, however, we're at your convenience. Happy Valentine's.
Thank you.
To you too.
You too.
All right, yes, a citizen comment on a non-agenda item? I'm sorry, on a non-agenda item.
Thank you, Mayor. Andrew D. Shumelda, P.O. Box 7191, Garden City. Mayor, did you get a chance to review my 2 St. Paul letters?
Yes.
Did you share these with the board?
Yes.
Okay. Imagine applying all energy soliciting donations for St. Paul to transition it into a motion picture studio, a money maker for the village. As an incentive, big donors get to be a star in a movie of their choice. How many Garden City residents are enrolled in an applicable college curriculum? Fast easy way to transition a winter wonderland, Garden City, into a dump is with a salt spreader. A wet pavement receives a blanket of salt when the forecast is for a sunny day with temperatures in the mid-40s. Is an emergency stop easier on a wet pavement or on a blanket of salt? Mayor, did you receive my 2 February 1st documents?
Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay, I was surprised you would get them. Okay. I have a document you didn't get, okay? Ryan T. McDermott episode. I have it here. I'd like to give it to you. It's to Nassau County Administrative Judge Vito M. DiStefano. It reveals some of my desperation. Okay. At the beginning of each village board meeting, you pledge justice for all. To take office as mayor, you swore an oath to protect and defend the New York State and federal constitutions. I attended 6 disciplinary hearings at the Garden City Public Library. 5 resulted in a 1-year suspension. The 6th resulted in me being banned. Prior to each of these hearings, I was denied discovery. Going into each of these hearings, I had no idea who was the accuser nor their accusations. Okay. Mr. Fishberg represented the village and the library at the hearing that resulted in me being banned. Mr. Fishberg can explain to you how my civil rights, various laws, New York State and federal constitution were trashed. There was no discovery, surveillance, video disregarded. I had no accusers to confront at the hearing. Accusation itself was a mystery. Okay, so whatever. Is the way I was treated by the library consistent with your pledge and your oath?
I'm not commenting. You can
Oh,
make your
okay,
comments.
okay, you're not commenting. Okay, good, okay. I regard that as a cover-up, okay, but anyway, okay. Okay, regarding my civil suit, I mean, interesting how you're not commenting because you're the committee my recourse for the library, okay? So you're just like, you know, that's crazy because where am I supposed to go? Civil suit, that's it, civil suit, I got no choice, okay? And regarding my civil suit, okay, stealing mail, criminal conspiracy, obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, false police report, witness tampering, cover-up, are crimes I identified the village being totally guilty of. Okay. I have all the pertinent documents in my possession. Considering the fact that the village is guilty on all counts, how prepared is the village to engage in a battle of this magnitude? Nothing in my complaints are trivial. All of my complaints can be backed up and supported by hard evidence that is undeniable and irrefutable. In a word, should this matter go to trial, the village has not got a prayer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments in the room on non-agenda items? Mr. Simler?
Leo Stimler, Huntington Road. Trustee Torino, thank you for focusing on the U-turns on 7th Street. Trustee Ty, thank you for that rebate program. That sounds very exciting. Commissioner Jackson, well, when I look at the Garden City News and read about the office cat and I read all the work that your police officers are doing, I think I'm safer. I think my children and their spouses and my grandchildren are safer because of what's being done. I'll just read one where a man or a woman had an altered license plate, an unregistered auto, and an uninsured auto. And I also appreciate when you, and you also, Mayor, when you list where vehicles have been impounded. I'm thinking, well, then that car is off the street, so it makes me feel safer. What I also wanted to talk was about the survey. I'm strongly for partial replacement, option B, and I want to thank all of you for all the work you did on this. I really appreciate it. But I also wanted to share what some of my friends, some of my relatives, some of my neighbors say when I urge them to keep an eye out for the survey. Because I go to page 4 and I go to the section on what it's going to cost for, especially the one I like, option B. And one of the things that they say is they don't think that the survey is fair because they don't list demolition as a specific option. And I hope you will, I recommend that you change that and make it a specific option. Because when I point out to them, well, you know, you can write in, yeah, but it'll get lost. How do we know it's really going to be counted? And there's a lot of skepticism about this survey. Many of my friends, relatives, are skeptical's mild word when I show them 10B. I like 10B. You know, the fee, the annual fee. I think it's very reasonable and it's very fair, and I think it's workable. But they say, well, look at the senior center. Look what happened to that. How much over budget was that? The original budget, if you remember, back in 2012, was $633,000. And they say over and over and over and over, we've had to pay more. The other thing, let me think. That's one of the other thing is the length of time that it took for the senior center. If it wasn't for Joe Lito and George Salem, who came up here time and time and time again and said, "Hey, what's with the senior center? What's going on? Why hasn't it progressed?" And they were told over and over again by your colleagues back in 2012, 2011, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. It's out to bid. It's out to bid. It's out to bid. It's out to bid. So these are questions you're going to get. So I hope you consider them. But my main point is I love St. Paul's and I'm very excited. And I hope you monitor this closely, because the senior center wasn't monitored closely. And my relatives, my friends, my neighbors are using that. My golf buddies are using that against the survey. So I hope you're prepared. The survey and St. Paul's are different. It's a different group of people now monitoring things. I have a lot more confidence in you than in what happened previously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stillwater.
Leo, I want to answer some of your concerns there, because obviously I'm very involved in this up front. Number one, you can tell all your friends, and I've said it up here, and I'm going to say it again tonight, that if the residents decide they want to pick or select one of those projects and move forward for a bond vote and move this thing through, I'm telling you tonight that I will stick with this project for as long as it takes and make sure it sticks within budget. And when we say it's going to take 2 years, it'll take 2 years. If we say it's going to take 3 years, it'll take 3 years. This is what I do for a living. It's one of the reasons I got elected for the infrastructure of the village. I'm committed to it. I'm passionate about it. And again, whatever the budget is, there is always a way to stick within budget, but you need to be disciplined. You need to put in the hard work. You need to value engineer the project, and you need to make good decisions. That's what any budget, if you were doing an extension in the rear of your home, you have to budget a certain amount of contingency, but you have to put in the hard work estimating before the project starts. And then you have to hold that contractor's feet to the fire to hold them within that contingency. And that's how it really works. But I'm committed to doing that. I'm committed to giving up as much time as I need to eventually get one of these projects done, as long as if that's what the residents want. And I firmly believe that they will want to take Garden City in a bigger and a more inspirational direction in the next 5 to 10 years. And we're excited about it. And but the residents will drive it. The residents will decide. But once they do decide and they put us in charge of doing it, I give you my word tonight, and I'll give every resident my word that I'll be on top of that, and I'll make sure we stay in budget and it gets done in the time frame it should get done in. So hopefully that'll help you a little bit.
Any other resident comments on non-agenda items in the room?
Steve Alodi, Meadow Street. Sorry to take up more time, but I sit here, month after month, meeting after meeting, and hear one side of a story. And for someone who worked at the Garden City Public Library for 34 years as the monitor / security, and being that it's a public building and you're very limited on, keeping people out, my job for the first 15 of those 34 years was to make sure that the schoolgirls, the middle school girls who came to the library felt safe, were safe, and were not put into situations that made them uncomfortable and they did not know how to get out of because of certain people who were allowed into the building. And the library was very adverse to banning people for life. They would do a 1-month ban, a 6-month ban, a 1-year ban over and over and over. And the library, without getting into all the details and all the aspects of what I dealt with over there, the library is a safer place because certain people are not allowed to go there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room with comments on non-agenda items? Anyone on Zoom with a comment on a non-agenda item? We have a few comments.
Yeah, of course.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now, Patty.
Okay, this is Patricia Chester, Bruce Chester's wife. I would like to take exception to what Frank McDonough had said. Bruce and I have been to every St. Paul's meeting that his committee has held for the past 4 years. We were at every single one of those meetings, unlike many of the current trustees that are sitting up on the dais now. Okay? The meeting that Mr. McDonough is referring to in the library basement where he gave his explanation of the Conservancy sounded all very well and good. And when he went on, of course, after it being a CPA and a numbers person, after it was over, I went up to him and I asked for an explanation, to which he started going on and on and on. Somebody interrupted us, introduced me as Patty Chester, and as soon as he heard my name, he stopped the conversation, took away his drawings that he was illustrating. So don't use, oh, I gave the information to Bruce Chester's wife, because that's not the case. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. I think we have another comment on non-agenda items on the Zoom. Mr. Oros? can you
Yes,
unmute?
good evening. Judy, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I heard the survey being mentioned a couple of times. In fact, more than a couple of times. I have a question about that. Have the surveys been mailed out yet?
No, there's actually going to be a town hall on Tuesday, February 11th. At this point, they are not yet finalized. They went to the survey company. They need to come back from the survey company. They may make minor changes, the survey company that is, and then they have to come back and will be mailed out within the next couple weeks. Is that the expectation?
Next 2 to 3 weeks.
In 2 to
Okay,
3 weeks. it's
another
expected
question is
they'll go out.
how many surveys are you going to mail out? And what is the criteria of receiving a survey?
1 to every home.
Every home. How about commercial properties? Are they getting it too?
No.
Oh, interesting. How about renters?
Yes, all residents will get it. That would include renters.
Renters get it.
Yes.
Correct.
Well, commercial properties pay property tax and renters do not. So I don't understand that.
That's the way surveying is done. It's of the residents. And while a renter may not directly pay, it would be part of their rent. The building is paying taxes.
Well, there's a lot of renters out there believe that a favorable response to the survey they will be willing to give because they don't think it's going to affect them because they don't pay property tax. This information is out there, believe me. There were several people at the senior center who was mentioning that they're in favor of the plan because they're not going to be involved with paying for it. And the commercial properties are not being part of it. They're going to be paying higher taxes, and they're not part of it. So I don't understand that reasoning there. People who feel that they're not part of it are going to be part of the survey, and people who are part of it are not going to be part of it. So it's another mishmash that this whole survey business is. That's about it for now. Until
All
next
right,
time.
thank you, Mr. Oros. Is there anyone else on Zoom with a comment on a non-agenda item? I don't see any other hands raised. There are none. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Here.